Where are you all guys joining from? I said, Apple. See, quite familiar names. Hello, Nisar.
Hey,
Where are you from?
I'm based out of Ahmedabad.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so hello everyone. Central Law welcomes you all to the new event. So today's event is based on base and Farcaster, and this event will be taken by Samuel. Samuel is the founder of DTech Vision, a product studio specializing in Web3 solutions within the Farcaster and EVM's ecosystem. Prior to DTech Vision, he has founded Betify. Samuel has an interest in security DevOps, IT projects, automation, tech, and decentralization. Over to you, Samuel.
Sure, thank you. I'll quickly just share my screen and then we'll
Yeah,
be able to get right into it.
yeah,
Basically, we're going to look at how to build on Farcaster and Base. And this is going to be more of a developer's guide. So it will just give you the initial getting started, how you can get into the ecosystem. And we're going to also build a live app. So first of all, we're going to cover why does it even matter? Like why are we even on Farcaster or Base, and what are we even talking about? And then we're going to look at a sample app. And then from that sample app, we'll look at other resources and how to get started and how to build in the overall ecosystem. As Tushar has mentioned before, I did a lot of developing in the past. I'm born in Germany, near Frankfurt, and my experience in the past has been application development. And before that, I worked in IT security and some cloud engineering. And right now, I'm finishing up my bachelor's at ETH Zurich. And well, the main topic of today are Farcaster and Base, right? And we're going to start with Farcaster. And Farcaster is the, well, I'm not going to say more fun of the two, but it's definitely the more social of the two. Like, if you're on Farcaster, it feels like a social media page. You have your Twitter. Some people are building a Reddit on top of it, and that's generally also how it feels. Well, if you're on Base, well, it's transactions, right? It's looking at a bank or it's some applications, and you need to build something on top of it for it to be fun, right? You want to build an application, or you want to build social, right? Like Farcaster. And Farcaster itself, if we look at it and we start from the left and go to the right here, on the left you can see profiles, right? It's just posts. It's what you're familiar with. And then there's this little thing in the left that you see, these little icons, a bunch of them. And if we zoom in on those, that's the second picture from the left. We do have a lot of these backend bounties, whatever, and they're called channels. It's the same as a subreddit or a hashtag on Twitter, where you just have a category where you post into, and then people following that category or checking that category will see it. On the picture one more to the right, which is now directly in the middle, there's this fun thing called frames, Well, it is basically just a mini app. So if you use Telegram mini apps, that's similar. If you were back on Facebook in the days when you could just play on top of Facebook, that is similar. And all that is done there is just somebody defined a little piece of code telling the Farcaster app, in this case Webcast, how to render it and show it. And here in that sample, what we're doing is we're actually minting a Pokemon card on chain live. So if you click mint now there on this frame, what's happening is you're paying with ETH or whatever coin you have on base, and you're getting back a Pokemon card. You don't know which one. This is the whole fun of a vending machine, right? But this is what can be built on top of Farcaster that isn't done on Twitter or anywhere else. And this is what makes it a little more fun and integrates Farcaster and base, right? And that's why we're talking about both of them together. Then Farcaster itself also has one more thing where these little actions, like the picture all the way to the right, this little thing where you can click on a post and you can invoke those actions. And those actions then get the context of who is the poster, who is the post, or whatever. So you could build an action that translates it into a language of your choice. Like, say you want to learn French and you read a bunch of French posts, but you don't understand them. Then you're like, okay, yeah, no, translate this. You get it in your language and you're like, oh, okay, nice, now I understand it. And then you can respond in French or whatever, right? And learn a little bit with that. So that's the general gist of the pieces of the puzzle that we do have in Farcaster. We do have the social stuff, but we also, through the interactivity, have this connection to the on-chain world. And we're going to dive into more of that in the sample that I'm going to show. But who of you here remembers Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit, right? We're probably using one of these platforms every single day. Well, if we go back just a little bit, 1 year, then Reddit intended to shut down its API access mostly. Well, they wanted to make it costly. Twitter as well, if you saw the Elon Musk overtake, they've basically banned third-party apps unless you pay a couple $1,000 at times $40,000 for the enterprise offering for the data. And a simple side project is not going to be paying $40,000 a month just to access some data, right? Facebook back in the day also had these interactive mini apps, which they turned off for the simple reason that they were like, we don't need them anymore. Now Facebook works. And Zynga was one of the big builders in that time, a big company. And Zynga is still around. They're making mobile apps, but they're not building apps on top of Facebook anymore. And so that is the problem we've had with all of these companies shutting down their APIs. Well, with Farcaster, you can take all of these apps. On the left, there's a screenshot of Twitter apps. And you take this blockchain-style network where you have a bunch of computers, everyone on the whole world running that network. Any one of those dots that you see on the map in the middle is an API that you can just query and get the data in, get the data out. So from that, this is not going to happen. Like, you will not be shut out of being able to use Farcaster. Like, no way. This is what makes it fun, though. Like, if you're building something onto a Farcaster, you'll not be shut out. So on the right, there's also a picture of people already building on the ecosystem. So there's a bunch of meme coins, there's a bunch of tools, there's a little bit of media, and there's some apps. Most of those apps either just use Farcaster for something, or the actual full clients. Like, client meaning there's your social media app, like your Twitter, your Reddit, whatever, but the content you see is still just Farcaster. So if you use any of those, you'll see the same content, but you can choose however you want to consume that content, so to say. And then you can just take a look at whatever app you want that has worked on Twitter, rebuild it on Farcaster. Likely it's going to work just as well, though you don't have to worry about the API shutting down, and maybe you can make some side income with that. But we'll get into specific ideas and all of that later. So what if you take that social media and now you add some payment, right? Like, if you're on Twitter and you want to pay somebody for a nice post, or you're like, I want to buy this from you, how can we do this? You have to jump into the direct messages, they have to send you a link, you have to trust them, all of that bullshit, right? If you send me a link on Twitter, I'm not going to trust you that link doesn't scam them. So how can we get that right? Well, we're going to use Base. And how the two of them interact, we'll see in the sample lab. But first of all, like, what is Base even? Well, okay, so now that we want to pay somebody, we have this little problem that is called banks. And and they work, but they've worked for hundreds of years, though they're slow. Like if you want to transfer money internationally, like most of you are probably in India right now, and I'm in Germany. Like if I wanted to transfer money to you, it's going to cost me around 5 to 10% of the fee. Then we have the exchange rate as well, so it's not fun, and it's going to take up to 5 days. Like who of you wants to wait 5 days for your money? And then if we look at the UK, I would say the United Kingdom is one of the most stable countries in the world, globally speaking. Well, this is a screenshot of BBC 6 days ago. So that is beginning of July 2024. No, this is not 1940. It's 2024. They're not in war. Like they're at peacetime, in the UK at least. And their banks have had a glitch in their system. So like employees are not being paid for a week now. Like who of you wants to wait for your money for a week? Like anyone has rent you? Like that's obviously not going to work. Well, it does. It's been working for a while, and we're still using that stuff. And even domestic transfers, like now with fintech companies, most domestic transfers for private people are still free. For businesses, they still charge. Like the banks make their transaction fees on businesses, and those still take 1 to 2 days. Like if I were to pay you within India today with using a bank, it may take 1 to 2 days. That is also not fun. So if we're on the blockchain, on the right you can see there's a little screenshot where this is me sending $100, and the fee is below 1 cent. Like, and it takes 6 seconds to complete. Just before we even go further, go back. How long does it take? 1 to 2, maybe 5 days? And I tried international money transfers to the US for like a couple $1,000. I paid $200 in fees. Like you don't want to have 10% or so fees, because if you send more money, the fees are going to be higher. Yes, at one point you're so big that your bank is going to be a little nicer to you, but they're not going to be fully nice, right? This doesn't care if I'm sending $1 million or 100. Like the fee is just this fee, because I'm only paying for the computation. And on Base, it takes a couple of seconds, like less than a minute. Even on Ethereum mainnet right now, it takes less than a minute. So we basically get, just by using blockchain, we basically get into instant settlement, and we have 24/7 access without a percentage-based fee. Like we don't need to go to the bank and tell them, oh yeah, we're sending money internationally. I'm sending money from Germany to India. I have to clear this transaction. I have to call you because you don't think that I should be sending money there. And no, I can also do it outside of your service hours. So if they're asleep Sunday morning, I can still send money to you, right? And this fee is usually below a cent for money transfers. I haven't seen it go way higher than $0.50. Like the highest I've seen on Base is like 10 to 20 cents for USDC transfers. Like there's other stuff you can do that's going to cost more, but we're just talking about the USDC transfers for now. So what if we do combine the two? Right? Like, what if we take this fun blockchain thing and this social thing and we just shake hands, right? Well, okay, then you get something like this, where you can get paid just by somebody knowing your username. You have very low fees, and it's easier. Like, we have the sample of, okay, you want to pay somebody on Twitter, or you did some freelance work for somebody on Twitter, and if you're a developer and you're sharing your stuff, you'll get into that where people will just DM you and be like, oh yeah, I'll pay you $100, $500 if you can get whatever done for me. And you can accept or deny, but you'll have to exchange payments in some way. So here somebody is just saying, okay, at DymoBot, request $10. So this person is being like, okay, yeah, just pay me $10 and we're good. And then this link here pops up at the bottom, and if we click on it, it's simply this frame that we saw earlier. Like if we go back to Farcaster, right? Like this thing in the middle looks familiar, and this thing in the middle is the same thing that we're now seeing here again, right? This frame thing, and there's this link in the bottom right where you can just say pay request, and now I want to pay. And what we're doing now is we're going to make that even easier in our sample app, but now you need to go to Dymo and pay it. But that is way easier, way more trustworthy than going to Twitter or the DMs or whatever. Like you don't need to DM anybody. How does that work? Well, on Farcaster, you know the wallet address of the person. The wallet address is the blockchain address where you're sent to, like the bank account on blockchain, so to say. So this is also on Base, your bank account. We call it a wallet address and whatever. We'll get into that shortly, because we're going to build that app. So yeah, we're going to build live. I don't know if you know how live demos usually go, but This is Elon Musk doing a live demo. It works. So yeah, this is basically this is what we're going to build. Like you recognize this frame where it's like, oh, you want to send somebody, and here somebody is picking a bot and being like requesting $10. We're going to build this frame that sends 0.1 ETH to somebody just by knowing their FID. So let me just swap the screen share to the live machine, and then we can just hack away at it. And yes, I'm saying hack away at it live. Like this is what we're doing. Like this will be the end result where we input an FID, say I want to input my own. We send $10, it's going to open this transaction thing. And yes, on my test wallet that I have here, like this is my test account. I don't have funds in there. But you can now click pay and you can pay. We can also change this account, change it to another one, right? And then we could be in here paying. But this is just the fun stuff. If we look at the logs, just go back and look at the logs. We can see that the logs are going to do this transaction stuff that happens, and it's going to be this is my wallet. Like we just invoked this on Farcaster, right? And this is me. How do you know? Well, okay, I'm going to show you. You don't need to trust me on any of this shit, so I'm just going to show you. So if we go to Webcast, to my profile, you can go about, and this is the ID. So 16085, send, and this is this wallet address. So if we go to Etherscan and we just check that wallet address, how do you know that this is me? Well, because I own samuelluber.eth as the ENS. This is some ENS stuff. So this is me here, and you can see NFT transfers, whatever, and yeah, you get the gist, right? Like this is connected to my Farcaster account, and all we did is just input something. Well, you're not going to know this, right? For the regular user, you're not going to know what their ID is, but even that we can make easier. But for the sample lab, we're just going to do it easy. What you could also do is the actions that I told you earlier about, where you can go this click, and then you can just go pay, like coffee, and then it opens up something, and you could then technically just have your payment here, and then I already know what address it goes to, and then I just do the transaction here. We're just going to make it easier for ourselves, and the transaction is going to pop up here. So how do we actually build this? Okay, so if we just look at the documentation here, like detect vision, learn Farcaster, and then quick start frames, this looks simple, right? This is the same. So all I did is I did this quick start. I just copied this into the terminal, and I ran it here. That's what I did, and this is why this is shipping frames, because if we look at it, hey, we're naming this shipping frame. So then we get the sample, and in this sample, we go to our main page and we define our frame. So we can just rip that out again. Just want to do it again. So what we're doing is in our frame, we need some buttons, right? So we need this transaction send button. So how do we learn how to send a transaction? Well, okay, we go and we look at our browser again, and we Google Farcaster frames. There's this frame specification. Then we can go scroll down, because we only need transaction, right? Response, no, we don't care. No, we don't care, we don't care. Constructing a frame, okay, this is what we're doing. We're building something. And then we go down a little bit, down, and there is this transaction thing. And we can see, okay, the transaction actually allows a frame to send a transaction, which is what we're going to do, right? We want to send money from somewhere to somewhere, and then this is what we need to return in JSON. So here is the description of what we need to do. If you want it a little easier because you don't want to follow docs, you can go to something like OnChainKit or framesjs.org, framesjs.org, and then also there they have transactions on the left. In this bar, there's transactions, and they also tell you, okay, here's the sample code of how to do a transaction, and this is just what we're doing. So this is how you get started and how you build that. So going back into the actual code, we have our button here. That button sends it to somewhere, right? Okay, what is this somewhere? Before we go further, we do see these files here, but where do they go? Okay, so
Hey,
we go
Sam,
back.
sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Could you increase the font size, please? It's
Oh
not
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
visible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, and in VS Code as well. Okay,
Thanks a lot.
you're welcome. So if we go over to Xcali Draw for a quick second, like what are we actually doing here? Well, we're taking this initial frame, like this is what we're seeing if we go to our little fun frame here with the send, and from there we need to get the data moving in between a little bit. So this is where it's turning a little more fun. So this webcast thing here, when I click send, is sending out to our server. And our server is going to say, okay, this is the transaction data for this input. So I'm entering an input here, which is 16085. I press this, and it's going over to our server. And we saw that in these logs, right? Like this is it's making a request to our transaction endpoint, and we see that this is whatever we return. So that post is then coming in, has some data, whatever, right? So if we look at it in code, what this route is doing is we're taking this post request that's coming in, we're getting this number because we know that this number should be an integer and it's in our data and it's in our input. We can even make this bigger because we only need to focus on that. This is our input, and then we use that input. We just call an API, and in that API, we're like, hey, please give us that wallet address. And now we have that wallet address. That's what I'm saying, like address. Like this address that you saw here, this OX7FDDD stuff, this is our OX whatever string here. And all we do is we just tell it, okay, send the transaction, use 0.1 ether, and send it to this address we just found for our FID. So like this is the whole flow, right? Like we just go, okay, we get the data, we send back the transaction, this executes the transaction. So this is what happens why this wallet is coming up now, because we want to execute this transaction. And then we just throw it another frame and we could do whatever. And here we just send people to the success frame. One question is, where can we get access to these APIs? Well, you don't need to. You can simply go to farcaster.xyz hubble and just use hubs for it directly, and there's public instances. So you can just use this, or if you want to use a provider like Nena, you just go to their webpage and there you can also get started with it. So that's how you get access to these. If that answers the questions. Hubs are totally free. You can just use the public ones. Nena is in the lowest tier is $9. But hubs also have that same data. Like one thing you need to understand is that if we go back to the presentation a little bit, this network of everything that's going on here, like all the content you see, like this post, whatever, like this is all on these little dots that I showed you. Like this is not some Twitter just server farm somewhere. Like this is all on these dots. Like you could just scrape it all yourself, run it on a simple machine with hubs. So like Farcaster, if I just input Farcaster hubs, like this is what's happening, right? Like there's a bunch of people in the network syncing, and these apps just reading from it, and you can read through how to run one and all of that here. But this is just the little sample that we built, and what I wanted to show you is how you can go quickly from just doing something on social by having these like little click interactions to doing something on chain by having people send transactions. There's some more stuff we can obviously do a base, like you just have payment rails, but with payments you can now also do other stuff, like you can pull money together or different kind of things that you can do there. But that is the example we just spoke where we made this little payment where somebody needs to request the payment into a simple, okay, we just send it directly in feed. So now we have reduced the friction even more for an end user. And every time you do reduce friction for an end user, you get more usage. It's typically how it happens. So how do you actually get started in this ecosystem? Like, where's the places to go? What's the, like you said, APIs and whatever? Like, what do you actually do? Well, in base, in the like base ecosystem, most of it is driven by development from Coinbase. And what they're trying to do is they want to enhance the overall blockchain experience. So there's a thing called Smart Wallet, and they just simply take away this browser extension stuff. Like in the demo, I had this like browser extension. There was no funds in there, so I would need to go and register with an exchange, add funds, and do all of that stuff. That is not needed anymore. Like you can just go use your phone, create this, like you use an account, and then you're good. And we will see that in a second demo in a bit. And you can also sponsor funds. Like this concept called Paymaster is where usually what happens, right, is you just go to YouTube, you upload a video, and the storage cost for that video is sponsored by YouTube because they make money in ads or whatever, and they just sponsor it for you. Well, in blockchain, we're so funny that we think that users are going to pay for their own video upload. Well, we found out that that usually doesn't happen unless they get a lot of money in return, which is why most of these protocols then talk about airdrops and yeah, we're going to give tokens and incentives and all of that, because user doesn't want to pay for the simple stuff that's usually free for them. So if you then go and take that away, you can pay for them, like let people sponsor it, right? And you can, if we already have that, if we use that, then we can also just take a bunch of transactions and put them together in base code that it's called batch transactions. And if we go to smartwallet.dev, like they have samples and all that, and we're going to see that in a bit. Where usually what ends up happening is you need to do one transaction for approve, you need to do another transaction to actually send the money, and you want to do it all in one, which is called account abstraction, as Sid has already said in chat. So this is fun. And there's a YouTube video from Hapa that you can also check out where he goes into how can you actually build with Coinbase Smart Wallet. So that's one really nice place to start in this overall ecosystem, is just go and watch some YouTube videos. Yes, it sounds boring, but it's like follow one, just pick one, just do it, have a sample, and then do your own thing. Like you're not going to learn a bunch by just doing a tutorial. Like take one sample that you find fun as an idea and just do it. If you have no idea of what idea to do, you just go into a Telegram chat like this community. You just ask, hey, what would be fun to build? And you're probably going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 ideas. And then the problem you have is picking one instead of being worried about not having one. And this build on-chain apps thing is also fun because they already have cool samples. So the sample that I'm looking at here is just buy me a coffee, and I just executed one command in my terminal, and I have that up. And I will also show you that sample. So if we go over to my code again, I'll show you that sample. Though that sample is using Coinbase Smart Wallet, and I do not have one, which is fun because I can show you what this experience looks like. Like usually what you have to do is you need to go and you Google crypto wallet. And then in crypto wallet, I'm going to make it bigger so anyone can see and run this. And then, yes. And you have to go crypto wallet. Do you want the sponsored one? Sponsored. Okay, now you find an article. What is a crypto wallet? How to set one up. Let's just look at the article out of fun. Okay. Do you understand from this article how to set up a wallet? And this is the first result on Google that explains how to set up a wallet. I don't think so. So we don't want anyone to do that, right? Like, no. Usually, if I go to a random SaaS business, let's just do this. What can we do? AI chatbot, right? We just go to any AI chatbot page, And if we want to log in, they will ask us, okay, log in with Google or GitHub. Who here has a Google account? Probably all of us. So we can just one-click login. Or we can continue with GitHub, or we also all have a mail already. Usually we don't have a wallet. Like, regular user does not have a wallet. As much as you think they do, they don't. And them having to understand all of that is a burden. Like, we don't want to do this. So we can just look at this sample from Smart Wallet, where I do not have a Smart Wallet right now, and this is just building in this Buy Me a Coffee page in the background, so that's why it's taking a bit. But we do not have a wallet, right? So we want to create one, and in this sample, we just have an app where we could just pay 1, 2, 3, or 4 coffees, whatever, and input a little message here. So first, it tells us connect your wallet. Well, okay, where's the wallet connect button? Does anyone know where on this page is the wallet connect button? Okay, yes, it's top right. But like, please, if it says please connect your wallet, just let me press this and open the wallet connect photo, right? Like, this is some of the user experience stuff that we do not do here. But if I'm going just AI chatbot, whatever, and we go into some web page and we can interact with this thing, we can already try it before even logging in. And then after a while, they're going to prompt you and be like, oh, chat now, and then you need to log in or whatever. Right? Like, this is what Web2 is. This is how easy and fun this is. Right? Like, this is way more fun than whatever we're doing. And yeah, here the sign in is also top right. Like, I'm not going to sign in. This works. So if they now prompted me, give me a pop-up to be like, sign in, like this would be cool. This is what every app does. You want to see something? Go to Uniswap, which is the biggest exchange we have in crypto. Like, take any exchange, your stock exchange or whatever. So I just go here and I want 21 ETH. I select whatever token, say like US dollar. I know what to do. It's connect wallet, right? Like, they get it. I now need to connect the wallet. Okay, now I need one, right? I still have the problem of needing a wallet. I can't just simply use this right away. But that's one thing. But okay, so say we don't have a wallet. Now this pop-up comes up from Coinbase, and this is easy because now it's okay. Create me a wallet. Cool. Touch your security key to continue. What do you mean touch your security key? Is this my Linux VM? Like, I don't have Touch ID in that Linux machine, right? Like, this is where we are in Web3. Like, can't we just? I can't. Like, this is where we are, right? But just to go back, like, you can easily just pay for coffee here and prompt people to do all of that. And this is where you bring the transactions on chain and make it fun and make it really easy in the web page, right? If only I had a wallet. Like, this is one of the things where before you get started into this ecosystem and you get lulled into this idea of just do it and people will use it. No, like, make it really. You need to make it really, really easy. And Smart Wallet Condev, like the webpage I showed in the presentation just a little bit, they have all of these terms like the batch transactions, paymasters, and all of that. And then you can just go here and look how to sponsor transactions for people using your app. And they have it explained really well. Like, you can just go here, there's YouTube videos and all of it, right? It's just the general experience of it would be so much easier. And yet, well, Deepak, Coinbase wallet this smart wallet is supposed to be one-click wallet, right? Like, if I were to use this outside of Linux in my Mac, in Safari, or in Chrome, that would work. It's just, I'm here to show you the ugly side of things, like what you need to look out for, because you need to think like the user. Like, most of the stuff we see is built by devs for either traders or for other developers, right? That's one of the biggest problems, I would say, that we actually do have in the overall space, and that's one thing where we can definitely improve. But there's cool resources. Also, the video is great. And then if you want to learn Farcaster, that's obviously where I have most of my documentation out. It's just data vision learn, like we looked at before in the sample, and there's a bunch of it. And if there's anything missing, just reach out to me and you'll be able to get it. And Otherwise, just share it, right? Like right now we're ranting. We already have like people in the chat ranting about like we need one-click login, we need this, we need that. If you just go into a channel like Base and you just post that to the people there and tell them we need this, like why doesn't this work? Why doesn't that work? That may sound like just being mad or whatever. This is actually helpful. Like we need that feedback to improve. So just become that social media expert, right? Like upload stuff, like share stuff, go into these channels and share, right? Like, it's not going to be fun just like sitting in this call and listening or whatever, going out and then being like, okay, yeah, so whatever. Like getting active with the community is what's really fun. And use the channels you have, use the Telegram groups, use the webcasts, and all of that. Also, hackathons are really cool. Like you can meet really cool people and they will help you and mentor you if you go to some hackathons. So if you see one in your area or some online, just take it and be able to get started there. Initially, what hackathons are really good at is if you really make an effort, you can easily win a prize, and that is shared by the team that is doing the hackathon. So if you want to be shared by the base team, just compete in a base hackathon, get placed like 1 to 5th or whatever, you'll be posted from their social media and you'll get new contacts from that. That is also fun. So in general, thank you for listening. There's a bunch of links here on the screen if you want to reach out to me or whatever and ask questions. In general, I would say back to Tushar and we can happily do Q&A.
It was really nice. Even I was new to Farcaster. I completely got no. I was confused on frames, how to develop frames, and so I got to know what frames are and how to build them. So thanks a lot. It was
Thanks a
fun.
lot, Samuel. Especially the part where you mentioned why this is needed, why platforms like Farcaster are needed. That was really insightful. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I do have any problems with Twitter right now. Did you want to develop anything on Twitter? Anyone got $40,000 a month laying around to develop social apps? But that's generally just it, right? Like the people building Farcaster were like, "Oh, this sucks," but also on-chain sucks, right? Like I tried to set up a smart wallet from a Linux device. Okay, 4 to 5% of the world use Linux. Those 4 to 5% of the world still are a couple 100 million users, right? Like we're not talking small numbers. Like even if it were just 4 or 5% of India, now you're talking 40 million people, right? Like, we're talking a lot of people. And then you take people that have older devices, they also can't use Touch ID or whatever. And we just have to work around that and make it really easy. And that is fun. If you have any ideas or something to make it easier, just share it with the teams. Like people always say that we are early, but looking at the difference in user experience is one of the things that really, at least for me, shows okay, we're not that far advanced how we think we are. Like we're raising the most money. Like next there's AI who raise money, and then there's blockchain. Right? Like these are the top fundraising startup categories. But what do we raise it for, right? Like we just looked at use cases. So how does economics usually work? Well, you have some people building something, building a company, and they need to make revenue. So if there's no user that is able to use your thing, how are you expecting to make revenue? Why don't we build user experience to make revenue? The profitable companies are exchanges, so that's crypto people paying fees to somebody to hopefully make more money from other crypto people. And then the other profitable companies, the infrastructure companies, that we all pay to try to build something that hopefully makes us more money. Like that's the only two making money. So that's interesting.
Hello. Hi, Samuel.
Right?
Hi, Kushal. Actually, I have just a small doubt. Like the base, is it developed or it being developed? And what currency are we dealing with? I mean, if we are using cryptocurrencies that are, I mean, highly volatile, even maybe the case that if I am sending amount of something like one Bitcoin or one ETH, and maybe that can, I mean, volatile means the prices can vary from high and low and within seconds. And there can be disputes like, I mean, if I purchase one service or product and one X amount of I have to pay that dealer, and if that varied, I mean, maybe that may be a loophole in this case. So, I mean, what is your take on this? I just wanted to know.
Okay, I'll show you something fun because what you're asking for is you want a stable currency, right?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is literally all you technically care about. So there's this app which I showed you the bot of, which is Dymo, and all they do is just use USD. Like there is USD on blockchain, like on Base, where you can now use US dollar. Like in our sample, we use ETH and we send ETH around. We can also just the same way we can also send US dollar around. So then you're dealing with US dollar prices. And how Base is being developed, Base is actively developed by Coinbase, which is a publicly traded US company, and they're developing Coinbase and Base. And Base itself is Ethereum technology. So there's an open source community in Optimism where they build the actual infrastructure that powers Base. And Coinbase and their Base team, they also contribute to that. So there's active development on it being done by those companies and people in that space. Yeah, if you want to have stable currencies, just use stable coins and USDC.
Okay. Thank you so much.
There's one question that says, is it beneficial for a student to use Webcast? Well, okay, is funny in the sense that it is really small. Like most people on there are building something in the crypto ecosystem, which is one of the problems because, well, okay, yeah, if you want to reach soccer fans, football fans, cricket fans, yes, there's a lot of cricket fans on Webcast because there's a lot of Indian people on Webcast, but does that help you? Maybe not. Is it easier to just get a million users that love cricket on Twitter? Likely. Instagram, TikTok, yeah, likely. But it's also harder to get distribution on there than it is on Webcast. So I would just try responding to people with your thoughts and sharing a little bit and seeing how it goes. That's what I do. If you're building in crypto and you want to get into this ecosystem, then yes. Because on Twitter, you're likely not seen for what you share. On Farcaster, you are. And people will ask you questions, want to connect with you, want to jump on calls and that. So I would say yes, especially if you're a student. Likely, after your studies, you just want to work somewhere, or you want to start your own company, or you just want to dabble in projects while you're studying. So connecting with people now is really cool. I'd say at least try it. But that's one question about transactions like Blinks on Web2 social. Okay, Blinks is fun. Okay, why will frames be more beneficial over Blinks? Well, it's not that frames will be more beneficial over Blinks or whatever. Like, you need to understand how Blinks work. Like, Blinks are a browser extension that you have to install. So just from starting there, Blinks is a browser extension that you need to install. We just saw what happens if you don't have it in the demo, right? Okay, so that is problem one Blinks have. They're browser extension. Frames are not. They're in the client. I do not need a browser extension to use it. Problem with frames is Frames is not supported on Web2 social, like on regular social media. So Twitter does not support frames. Instagram doesn't support frames. So they will not work there. If you're now going into Twitter and you're using this browser extension, yes, then you could also build the same way, like the same browser extension for frames to work. Frames.fun, like the team from David Furlong and Stephen Silk, they're actually doing that. So that could be done. And that browser extension, what it does is, it's not that Twitter supports frames. It will be, okay, this browser extension supports the link shared in Twitter to be rendered as a link or as a frame, like as this mini app where you can do transactions. But that actually hooks into your like Twitter feed. Like they hook into your webpage and ingest that code into your webpage. And that is why not every link is simply be able to be a link there. Like you could share your code that is totally developed correctly, but the link's extension will not show it because they're like, we don't know you. On Farcaster, you could just post a frame and you could just use it. There's no issue with that because the frames are a little more restricted and they're just not hooking into the code of the webpage. Because the issue you have with links is if I wanted to just scan you, I would code a link that would insert code into your like webpage. And if the only thing you do is you just load the transaction and you're not injecting code into the webpage, then the links community was worried that, okay, now you're getting scammed by transactions that are false. That can still happen, of course, with Farcaster and the frames and all that. And that will just always be there, right? It's the same as, okay, you just use an application that is a fraud and you just have to send money there. But that's the big difference between Solana links and frames. Like frames, you can just go. Links, okay, they need to hook into an app that doesn't support it. You can just also build the same for frames. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kushal. So, hey, Samuel, it was a really cool session. So, I'm a little bit confused when it comes to building on frames. So, like, alongside writing JavaScript, do we also need to write some contracts when it comes to, facilitating transactions of any sorts, or it's something that's been already baked into the system where we're just writing up some component-based code to, to develop a small frame or any kind of an application on WordPress.
Okay, I will just answer this by showing you the demo again, because what you can see in the demo easily is that this transaction we're doing here in the demo doesn't call a smart contract. So we're executing this payment transaction without calling a smart contract, right? Like this address is the address we do get from the user here. And this is from the user. This is not a smart contract. So no, you don't need to write smart contracts to build frames. Any smart contract that already exists, obviously you can call, right? Like you're building a front end for something. Okay. Also, you don't need to know JavaScript to build frames. Like going back to the DTech documentation, how do frames work? There's like triangle of, we need to do all of this like steps in between. You can look at that when you have time, like this. Okay, how does this go back and forth, right? But in programming terms, this is all that this JavaScript code does. It's like, okay, here is a frame, here's my image, it has an aspect ratio, whatever. If I just post that on a web server, this is going to be rendered as a squared image. If I want to add buttons on it, here's a button, and that button is going to link out to this web page. So if I just host this HTML somewhere, then I already have a working frame. The only reason why I used JavaScript in that case was because, well, these libraries make it easier. And like VM exists. Like VM is a really nice library working with Ethereum. So I don't want to write HTML in my own JavaScript in a browser to make that wallet stuff work, right? Though even in this case, all we're doing is we're returning this JSON, right? Like going to the frame specification, this is all we're returning here. Okay, so if you take those together, why am I using JavaScript? Well, yeah, okay, it was easiest for me, but you want to do this in terminal now? Okay, we can just go Vim, and then we can just paste our HTML, and then on another endpoint we can just return the JSON, right? So if we just go over, move the what? That's not going over here. Okay, nice. So we can just take this JSON and be like, okay, yeah, here's my Vim whatever.json, and all I want to do is be on Ethereum mainnet. Then this ABI I don't need, so this should be empty, right? And this can be whatever your wallet is, right? Like look up your wallet, paste this in here. Data we also don't need because we're not sending data, and this is the value. So just send a bit of ETH. And now you're sending ETH, right? Like this JSON you just return from your endpoint, right? And I can also make this like big or whatever. Like this is how easy it is to work with frames. Like it's not requiring you to use JavaScript. It doesn't require you to use Python, to use Go, whatever. You can just technically host this JSON and respond from a web server. Is this the easiest way to build them, to hardcode them? Likely not, but it's one way that definitely works and that you can do. So hope that helps a little bit.
Yep, that definitely answers the question. Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. See you.
See you. Good night.